Sidoti. This is Jeffrey Hulse. And this is the Last Life Ever podcast, where we help you live the best version of your last life ever. Jeff, who do we have on the show today?
We actually have a really good friend of mine, Mark Thornton, who I met in the middle of the South Pacific, if you can imagine that. So that's a story in and of itself. And Mark and I actually survived a tsunami together. So that should be pretty interesting to talk about that. But that's not what we have him on to talk about, although I'm sure we'll share that story as well. We really want to talk about the fact that he spent the majority of his life living on cruise ships, doing all sorts of different interesting jobs, and now currently lives in the Philippines. So, and he's been there for a while, and he has this amazing YouTube channel. So there's so much. But rather than talk about Mark, I say we just bring him on. What do you say?
I say you're absolutely right.
Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Hey, Mark. Welcome to the show.
How are you doing? Thank you so much. Good to see you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's always good to see you, too. And I mean, I love that you changed your name to Every Man Has a Story. It's fantastic. That's great. That's actually the name of your YouTube channel, and I've been on there a few times, so people can check that out, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But, Mark, I started out by introducing you and talking about you living through a tsunami. So can we start there, just so people don't have to hold their breath till the end of the show?
Sure, yeah. I remember the story correctly. I was on the shore there, and the police came around with a siren and everything and said, get out of the water. And we had to hike up the top of the mountain to where our church was. And, of course, you were on the cruise ship, and you just left me there, Jeff. You left me there, and I watched the ship sail away and assumed that I was going to die. And and you were gone sipping margaritas, while I was up on top of the mountain there, waiting for the tsunami to hit. And fortunately, when it did, go ahead.
Listen. In fairness, I was not sipping margaritas because I don't like tequila. It was definitely like a mojito or something like that.
Mojito.
But it was really so. In fairness, right? Like we were on this cruise. In the middle of the South Pacific, and you were working the cruise ship, right? Like we were, I think, Vanuatu or something like that, right?
Yeah, Vanuatu.
Yeah. So we're out there in the middle of the South Pacific, and there's this alert that there's a tsunami warning, because apparently they have a tsunami warning system if there's an earthquake somewhere, and they can predict about when it's going to hit. And so I happened to be getting on the ship early because I was with my dad, and he lost his access card. Right. Yeah. And he was afraid, literally, he was afraid that when he got back on the ship, they would actually not give him his Coca-Cola card. They give you the little Coke thing on there, the little sticker you buy for unlimited Coke. He was like, I lost my card and I'm going to have to pay for the Coke access again. We have to get on the ship. And I was like, dude, you're being ridiculous. Like, we're going to be fine. He's like, no, we got to get on the ship. I might not be able to get free Coca-Cola. And I was like, okay, fine. So we got on the ship. And then right as we got on the ship, there was horns going off, and it was crazy, like the ship siren and everything. And they made an announcement that we had to get to deeper water immediately, and we were leaving everyone on shore. It wasn't my choice. I would have waited.
There's a lot of people, actually. There's probably over 100 people that had to walk. It was like maybe 2 kilometers up to where this little church was on top of the mountain.
And it was so hot. So hot.
It was hot. They gave us water and stuff. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but the thing was, a tsunami came, and it was very small, like a few inches, literally. But years later, several years later, there was a really bad one that hit Vanuatu and killed a bunch of people.
I got so many questions.
See, I got to show you this, though. See this photo right here? That was actually taken that day. Like,
wow.
like this is up by the church. My dad and I were up there. This is the backdrop of my computer. I just realized it was taken that exact day. And we took that picture, and then we went down and got on the ship and left you there. So
yeah. Would have been that happened to me once before. I was in Monte Carlo years ago, and there's tenders going back and forth, to take the people to the shore. And something happened. There was going to be a storm coming. That's what it was. A big storm was coming. And so all the passengers were on the ship, and there was like 10 crew members that were still ashore. We were supposed to be back by like midnight. It was like 10:30 or something. Anyway, the ship left us there. They left us there. But what they did is they told the port agent that, we've got so many crew members there, and they were waiting for us on the dock, and they put us up in a nice hotel. We had the whole night off. We didn't have to, the ship came back. We met the ship in another port like the next day. So we had this little fun paid vacation. So we were happy that the ship left us. But if you ever miss the ship by accident, you're in big trouble. You usually get fired for that, working on a cruise ship. I know people that's happened to.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. It's really early in the program for me usually to say that, but I do. I have a lot of questions. Wait, okay. So it was a small tsunami. You're in the water, and somebody comes over snorkeling, and somebody. Yeah. You're so lucky you heard them tell you, because you could have been out so far that you didn't hear. Like, was it a really loud? I've never been in a tsunami situation.
It was a Jeep with a police officer in it. He had a little light going and a siren going, and it's a loudspeaker. Everybody out of the water, everybody out of the water. And he was just making the general announcement. I was by myself, snorkeling. And so I just got out of the water, and they told everybody where to go. And it was like a disaster movie. Everybody was going the same way. And I just followed everybody else up to the top of the mountain. And of course, I saw a lot of people I knew, because everybody knew me on the ship anyway. So I saw a lot of passengers, and I saw a lot of crew members, and we just walked up there and sat inside the church for almost 3 hours.
In fairness, the tsunami was like 6 inches high. It was really, really small. Like, you couldn't even barely see it. Like, we were worried about it, and they were like, well, we're in 500 feet of water, so we should be fine. The people on shore are really high. Like, there's no chance it's going to be that high. And then when the tsunami hit, they're like, okay, it hit. And we're like, when? Like, we couldn't even see it. It was so small. But when you got to shore. The captain told me later on that what happened was that they've got these buoys that are in the ocean all over the world, and they're permanently there, and they're monitoring the sea. And these like several buoys in that area, they monitor that the sea floor dropped 14 feet in like 1 second. And so that's why they knew a tsunami was coming, because the sea floor literally just dropped. But 14 feet sounds like a lot, but you know how deep the ocean is, so it's a tiny fraction. Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's the tsunami story, Jillian. But, what made me want to have you come on the show, Mark, is because when we reconnected a month or so ago, we were just chatting about sort of like all the cool adventures you've had on cruise ships over the years. Because you've been on cruise ships. I mean, I know you're not now, but for like 30 years or something like that?
Off and on. I started when I was 22, and I was basically pushed out when I was 60.
So more than 30 years then. Yeah.
But there was times when I was on land, like I owned a roller skating rink for a while, and I, did some other things on land too, so, but I always kept going back to ships. So I'd still be there today if they'd let me. I never would have left.
Oh, really? Interesting. Why would they push you out when you were 60?
Age.
I get age, but I'm saying, but what were you doing like you couldn't function?
Well, the reason is that I was a 3-stripe officer, even though I never wore a uniform, and so you have different responsibilities in case of an emergency, like watertight doors, fire extinguishers, lifeboats, first aid, all kinds of stuff, and they just think that when you get to be a certain age, it's too old to be doing that. Like, I went through all my training at the in Hawaii at the military, at the Coast Guard base. And I had to go through all this training with the Coast Guard guys, and learn everything they did, even though I'm not in the military. And so it's things like that. So they take it very seriously, safety on board. Like, we've all got things, even in case of terrorist attacks, for example, like I was on a cruise ship, a celebrity ship years ago as assistant cruise director, and there was a locker backstage. and it was my locker with our supplies in it. But one door wouldn't open. I couldn't get the door to open when I took over the ship, and I got frustrated. So I got some tools out. And I popped the door open, and inside was a phone, and on the phone was a card, and it said, "In case of a terrorist attack, you pick up this phone and you say Gabriel has landed," and then they know the people on shore that we're under attack. And then everybody has a job to do, like the top ranking officers. We know exactly what we're going to do. And so
Oh, wow.
there's all these things that we have to do. You know, you look like it's just entertainment and stuff, but every crew member has a responsibility in case of an emergency. And it depends on what the emergency is. Is it a collision? Is it a fire? Is it a terrorist attack? Is it like, a COVID, outbreak, whatever it is. And also I had a quadruple bypass surgery. And before that, I had a heart attack on a ship, and that was kind of in my record, that I had. I was life-flighted. I was emergency evacuated off of a cruise ship one time. And
interesting. Okay.
But I was so well liked on all the cruise lines. I had a really good reputation. I worked on all the cruise lines, and they would, make exceptions for me. They kept making exception after exception. Finally said, "Look, Mark, you're too old." So here I am in the Philippines.
Yeah. How long have you been in the Philippines?
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
It's
I can't
great.
believe my family thought I was crazy. They thought, "What are you doing?" I'd never been to the Philippines. Didn't know a single person here. Bought a one-way ticket. I had like $600, and that's it.
Hold
no
on.
plan.
Okay. This is the stuff that I love and find incredibly fascinating. Okay. You had no plan. You bought a one-way ticket. That's a really bold move to buy the one-way ticket. Number one. Number two, like the thing about the Philippines is it's crazy fragmented, right? There's a million different places in the Philippines you could potentially go. Yeah. Right. Well, I guess there's 7,000 places you could go in the Philippines. Yeah. Million's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's 7,000 places you could go in the Philippines. How did you choose where to go in the Philippines when you bought this one-way ticket? And why did you even choose to buy the one-way ticket in the first place?
Well, that's okay. Let's do the why I did it in the first place. I was going through some really dark times. I'd had, because of the quadruple bypass surgery, it cost me a lot of money. I had insurance, but still, there's a lot of costs. And I couldn't work on cruise ships anymore. So I was selling high-end cars. I was selling Land Rovers and Jaguars, and I was really good at it, but I absolutely hated the job. And then I got sick again, and I was basically unemployed. I was staying at my mother's house on her couch. I had no options. I had my Social Security minus my credit card bills. My daughters, who live in London, I used to see them several times a year for months at a time, because with cruise ships, I had so much flexibility that they could come and stay with me for like a month or two. I lost my house through a bankruptcy, and everything was just going bad. And I was literally suicidal. Oh. And it was a very, very dark time. And I just kept telling myself, and Jeff does his affirmations, I know. And my affirmation was, I've got to change my life. I've got to change my life. And I wasn't specific about it. I just said, I've got to change my life, or I'm going to die. It's like, it's death or change my life. And I just, all of a sudden it hit me one day, just leave the country. Just go someplace where you can live that's affordable. And so I was going to go to Thailand. That was my original plan. I watched these YouTube videos. I'd been to Thailand. And then I stumbled across a video about the Philippines. And working on cruise ships, there's a lot of Filipinos working on cruise ships. There's nurses, there's doctors, there's front desk people, all kinds of staff, maybe 100 of them on every ship. And they were always very nice people, but I never had any desire to go here. And anyway, I found out online that English is the second language here, that it's easy to get a visa. You can stay for 3 years on a tourist visa.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of pluses. And so I just said, well, I'm going to try the Philippines. If that doesn't work, I'll go to Thailand. So I maxed out my credit cards. I bought a one-way ticket. And I chose Dumaguete because I saw a video by a guy named Rike, who has since become a friend of mine. And it just looked like a nice place, and it's not too big, not too small. So I landed here and stayed in an Airbnb up on the mountain. And it was kind of a very basic place. I mean, you had a room, and you had a bathroom and a shared kitchen. and it was like $200 a month to stay there. I was there for 2 weeks, and then I found another place that was called Dulce Vita. It was really nice, built by an American. Kind of looked like a California type complex with a pool and free internet and a view of the mountain. And it was way more money than I could afford. It was like $350 a month.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm going to do it anyway. And what I did before I left home, I got a job teaching English online. But it really wasn't teaching English. It's tutoring for a company called Cambly. And basically what they do is they pay you, just like you and I are talking right now. And people that want to practice their English in other countries with a native speaker, and they just like have a conversation with you, and you just talk to them and about whatever they want to talk about. And so I started doing that. It's $10 an hour, and that's kind of like how I was surviving. I was tutoring English online and had my Social Security. And when I first got here, I didn't think it was going to work out. Like at the airport, I was waiting for this car to pick me up. I just bought a new laptop because I needed a laptop to teach English. And the laptop was in a bag on top of my luggage, and it fell off, and I picked it up, put it back on there. But when I got to my room, I took it out to start teaching on Cambly, and the computer was broken. It was, my only computer, my only way to make money, and it was broken. And it wouldn't even turn on. And I'm like panicking, what am I going to do? Now I've got no way to make money. I'm in another country. I have hardly any cash left. And so I took my Swiss Army knife out, and I took the computer all apart, and I put it back together. And I know zero about computers. Somehow I fixed it. I don't know how to this day, but the computer still works. And anyway, I got it working. So I was teaching English online. And then I met a guy from Germany. He said, oh, you got to see the waterfall here, because where I live, there's a 30-meter tall waterfall within like walking distance where I am right now.
Huge.
Yeah.
And so you have to hike way down. Like there's 300 steps to get down to the river where the waterfall is, and you have to hike through the jungle. But anyway, so we went down there to see this waterfall, and I had this fanny pack. I've had this fanny pack for like 30 years. I bought it in Brazil, and I always carry it with me when I'm hiking and stuff.
Always making a fashion statement. Good.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah, but this was wait a minute.
It's probably a really cool fanny pack.
Wait. This is a leather fanny pack, and wait, I'm not done. I don't wear it on my fanny. I wear it on the side like a 6-gun. And I have it a little bit low, like it's hanging low, like you grab the gun, And
okay, wait. I have a serious question about this.
It actually looks cool.
All right, I doubt that. I have a serious question about this though.
Okay.
So, did you wear the fanny pack when you met the Moonwalker?
The Moonwalker. Oh,
yeah.
You mean Buzz Aldrin?
Yeah.
I had it. Yeah, I had it then.
Oh, were you wearing it though? Like, what did Buzz think of the fanny pack?
No. I only wear it when I'm hiking. When I go ashore. It's very cool.
Duh.
Anyway, okay. I get to the waterfall, and my very fashionable fanny pack is gone. And
that sucks if it has stuff you need in it, though. Yeah.
Well, I had my brand new Samsung phone, which also I bought on credit.
Oh, geez.
Had my keys to my room. Didn't have my wallet in it, but it had a bunch of other stuff. And so can't find it. I'm saying, okay, this is terrible, because that was my internet connection.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So as we looked all over for it, couldn't find it. As we're leaving, I saw 2 boys by the river. And I went over and said, I lost this. Tried to explain to them what it was. I drew them a picture of it. I said, I'll give you 1,000 pesos if you find it. Told them where I was staying. 1,000 pesos is $20. And lo and behold, the next day they come knocking on my door, and these boys had found it. They I guess put on the river's only like maybe 2 feet deep, so it wasn't a deep river. And they must have found it, but it had been in the water overnight, so the phone's toast. But I was able to get the SIM card out of it. And so after that, I went and bought the cheapest Samsung phone you could use and got myself back online. Computer's working, and I'm teaching English. And after that, ever since to this day, every day it's gotten better. Literally every day has gotten better since then. It's almost like Jeff, where you don't have a bad day. It's like it broke the spell. Like there was this bad spell, like this dark cloud that had been following me it was like a 10-year slide I went through of bad things happening, a divorce, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, and, wait. 10 years? So like what you're saying is from when you met me on, your life was all downhill.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's great. I hope I'm not the cause of that. I'm starting to wonder.
No. Yeah, like I work for the art companies. I worked for 3 art companies that went bankrupt. One of them they owed me $70,000, right, in commissions. They paid me $7,000, but they filed a 1099 on me for $70,000. And so to this day, I'm still paying taxes. I'm paying off the taxes for the money I never got. So those kind of things happen. Yeah. Yeah. So I had things like that where companies went bankrupt owing me money. And then the final straw, I forgot to mention this. When I was working on putting the deal together, there's a guy named Jeff Mitchum, who's a very famous landscape photographer. And I knew him, and I had a friend named Richard, who was one of my best friends. And while I was on Holland America, I came up with this idea because the art wasn't selling very much. It wasn't Park West, it was another company, and the art was not selling. I said, well, why don't we do photography instead, like really cool photography? And he had 2 galleries in Vegas, one in the Bellagio and another one in MGM Grand. Big, beautiful galleries. And I said, look, we can do Jeff Mitchum's art on board the ship. And so I pushed it through Holland America, through the onboard revenue manager. I got meetings set up in Miami, and I put this whole business together. And Jeff loved the idea. My friend Richard loved the idea. And I put the whole thing together, the business plan, all of it. And they finally said, yeah, we love this. We're going to do it. And so we were going to have Jeff's art in a gallery on every single Holland America cruise ship. And he was going to be the official photographer for Holland America. You know, it was going to be this whole big thing. Anyway, wow. I put it all together, and it was going to make millions of dollars. I mean, I knew it was going to be hugely successful. And one day, Richard called me up and said, Mark, I'm sorry, I got some bad news. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, you know, we were talking, you know, me and Jeff, and so I forget the name of the guy from Holland America. And he said, we decided we don't really need you. You know, we got everything together. You know, Jeff's got his own people, and Holland America has their own staff. And, you know, there's really nothing for you to do. And so basically,
you put the whole thing together, and they screwed you over.
Sounds like some really good friends.
Yeah, he was my friend. He was my friend for 15 years. We did things together, many things together.
You know? Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. But
so that was like.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on the negative, right? So you moved to the Philippines, stuff started to look up.
But here's the thing, Jeff. I think this is important. I'm not saying dwell on the negative.
No, yeah.
I think the story, though, is really important because for somebody who's finding themselves in a situation where they're at that proverbial bottom, like all this effort you put on all this effort, all this time, and with people you trusted, and then they screw you over like that. And then all these other things start dominoing, but you picked yourself up. I think that's the moral of the story there. I'm really glad you told that story. No matter how negative
I'm happy you told the story. I don't want to spend a lot of time like thinking about the bottom because there's so much stuff that's happened since then. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like, it was literally like I said, like the spell was broken right after, you know, I got my phone back. Things just every day was a little bit better. Something would happen every day that was new and better. Like I'd have a really interesting conversation with someone on Cambly. I'd meet a new friend, and then I got a new apartment. And then at the new apartment, I met all these other guys that were like my age. And all of a sudden, like within a month of being here, I had all these friends my age. And even though when I was in America, I had this really nice house in Louisville, but I was living by myself, you know, and my daughters would come visit me when I was not on the ship. And I didn't know any of my neighbors. They never said hi to me. They never invited me over. So I had no friends, you know, and working on cruise ships, you know, you meet people on the ship, but then they go back to Romania or Russia or wherever. And you communicate on, you know, Facebook or something, but they're not really with you, you know? So I had no real friends. And now all of a sudden I've got too many friends. I mean, I literally get people messaging me every day. Hey, Mark, you want to go to dinner? You want to go here? You want to do this? You know, I want to hang out. We're having a party. And so I have tons, and now that I've got my channel, people recognize me. Like everywhere I go, a guy walked up to me a couple of weeks ago, a retired airline pilot and Vietnam veteran, helicopter pilot, really cool guy named Gordon Cooper. And he said, oh, I've been watching your channel. I love your channel. He said, but I don't know how to donate online or something. And he gave me $40 because here, you know,
Well, you had him on your channel recently, right? Because I saw that interview. He is a fascinating guy.
Yeah,
that was a really great interview. Because like, just so you know, for people that haven't seen Every Man Has a Story, what Mark does is he interviews people, primarily men, that are in the Philippines, and finds out how they ended up there. Like what's their story? Like, how did they end up there? And recently he started interviewing people outside of the Philippines, like me. Obviously, I'm not in the Philippines.
Well, this was your idea, Jeff. It was your idea. That's
true.
why I started doing it.
Yeah, no, in fairness, it was. You said to me, I'd love to talk to you about your stuff sometime. You're really interesting. And I was like, well, let's just put it on your channel. It can't hurt anything. Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. And you've been doing more. I've seen you do several interviews of people that aren't in the Philippines over the last.
Yeah, I got a bunch lined up. I got a bunch of them lined up now. Yeah.
And he has a pretty big following, like 30,000 people or something like that on his channel.
Yeah.
Now, so
I'm almost 30,000.
That's great.
Yeah, my goal is 100.
That's amazing. That's really wonderful.
When did you start the channel? Like, how long ago was that?
July.
So not even a year,
wow.
but like 9 months ago.
Yeah. Well, I got a friend of mine. I got another friend of mine. He's from Iceland. His name is Finn Snow, Fin Snow, and he started his channel about 2 years ago. He's got like 450,000 subscribers.
Wow.
But it's a whole different thing. It's like a travel vlog, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, YouTube is a really powerful thing, and we could probably do a whole show on just like what you learned about, becoming a YouTube person. But we don't have time to do that whole show right now. And there's a couple of things that you told me before that I have to get to, Jillian. So you're going to have to let me do rapid fire questioning. All right.
Okay.
First, tell me, Mark, who is the most famous person you met on a cruise ship?
For me, the most famous person, the person that interviewed that fascinated me the most was Buzz Aldrin, second man to walk on the moon. I spent 2 weeks with him because I was assistant stage manager in World Bike, and this is back when I was like in my early 20s. And he came on board to do a lecture, so he was sailing for 2 weeks. And so I set up his projector for his slideshow and his microphone for his lecture. And he would come, and we do it in the movie theater. So he'd be backstage where the cameras were, the projectors were, and before the show would start. And so we'd spend like 15, 20 minutes just chatting. And he was just such a nice guy. I mean, I had taken helicopter lessons myself when I was in California. And so we talked about helicopters because he used to fly helicopters too. And his son flies helicopters. And then after the thing was over, he invited me to have drinks with him, and we had dinner together. And he was just such a nice guy, But you'd think that you'd be peppering him with questions, but I was kind of starstruck. And what Buzz would do is he'd start asking you about your life. Like, he was really interested. Like, so tell me about this, and what did you do? How'd you get on ships? And you're chatting away, telling him all about yourself, and then all of a sudden dinner's over and he's gone. I go, wait, I forgot to ask about aliens.
Man, so I'm really jealous about that, actually, because I really would like to meet someone who's been on the moon. Like, I think that's it's a life goal of mine. So if any of our,
I met Neil Armstrong too.
Oh, come on. Well, I'm not going to meet Neil because he's dead. But
here's what happened with him is he was teaching aeronautical engineering, I believe it was, at University of Cincinnati, where I went to school, after the moon thing in the 1970s. And you'd see him on campus from one time. And I just went up one day and, introduced myself. Hi, nice to meet you, Okay, fine.
Yeah.
He walked away.
So quick side note on Neil Armstrong. If anyone's ever driving I-75 through Ohio, in between Dayton and Lima, Ohio, there's this place called Wapakoneta. It's where Neil Armstrong's from. And there is an amazing space museum right off the highway there. And it's like $6 to get in, and no one knows about it. Wapakoneta, Ohio. All sorts of Neil Armstrong stuff. Fantastic. Highly recommend it. So, all right, we only have a couple more minutes. So that's the most famous person you met on a ship.
Well, and the second would be Omar Sharif, the movie star.
Oh, really?
I went to his birthday party, and we had caviar and Dom Perignon, and he kept hitting on my girlfriend Ava from Austria.
That is so cool. Well, I don't know if that's really cool. Maybe that's not cool. Never
It's
mind.
an interesting story in retrospect. It just depends on how the night ended as to see how cool it was, right?
No, it was fine. He didn't get nothing.
That's exactly what you want to hear, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, so we have to wrap up here in just a second. So Mark, I want to tell you, like, you're one of the more interesting people that I know, and we haven't really gotten to like I feel like we barely scratched the surface. So is there anything that you would like to share with the audience before we move on? Like anything amazing, great stories, anything you think you should tell us?
Oh, I know. I have lots of stories, like the time I saw a baby gorilla born in captivity. Time we had a murder on board the cruise ship.
Oh my God! Wait,
hold on.
Tell us that. Tell us that.
Like an Agatha Christie mystery?
Yeah, lots of stories. Yeah.
Is that why you were wanted by the FBI?
No. I was just kidding about that.
I know. I know.
Tell us about the murder on the cruise ship. I got to hear about this.
Okay, there was two. The first one was there was a very wealthy lady on Cunard, and we were on a world cruise. And she had a gentleman who was not her lover, but he was like her escort. We went to dinner with her, danced with her, so she wouldn't be here by herself. She just paid him to come along. But they were in the same cabin, a big suite, had two bedrooms in there. Anyway, they got into an argument one night. He hit her in the head with a wine bottle and killed her. And he was drunk. And he calls up the front desk and said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so sorry. She pissed me off and I hit her in the head and killed her. And so they came up there, they took the body to the morgue. They took him to the brig. And of course, they went in and cleaned the whole room up, and everything. And we were doing a crossing. We were crossing over to Europe. I think we were going to Barcelona, if I remember. And anyway, we get to Spain and they called the local authorities and they didn't want to deal with it. And the guy says, I didn't kill her. She fell and hit her head. But you said, no, I did. I never said that. I didn't kill her. It was an accident. She fell and hit her head. And so he denied the whole thing. Of course, they'd thrown away the wine bottle. They cleaned the room up. The body was in the morgue. And make a long story short, from port to port to port, none of the authorities want to deal with it because this murder happened in international waters. And so basically he got away with it. They eventually just let him off the ship, gave him his stuff and said, get out of here.
Oh my God.
So it kind of was like an Agatha Christie novel.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So you
on that note.
Yeah. Wow.
And Tom, I'll tell you the story about the celebrity cruise ship officer who murdered a passenger.
Wow.
But we don't have time for that today. No. I know you got a class to go to.
You
go to Harvard, don't you?
Oh, I do. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
I promised Jillian I wouldn't bring it up, so I'll send you that check now. So Mark's really angling to get invited back, I think, Jillian, and we're just gonna have to do that.
He has his invitation.
And the next one is going to be, the title of the show will be the time that what was it? You said celebrity?
A celebrity cruise ship officer murdered a passenger.
There you go. That's the next episode. We're going to use that clip for the episode for a preview. All right. God. Well, listen, Mark, we have one question that we ask every single guest at the end of the show.
What does it mean to live the best version of your last life ever?
You have to live in the moment. That's the most important thing. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow doesn't exist. You have to live in the moment. You have to appreciate something. So you have to wake up every morning and be grateful for whatever it is in your life that's good. Like, my age, my heart's doing well. My eyesight's good. I'm healthy. I'm in a great relationship. I've got lots of friends. So if you start every day off thinking about what you've got that's positive in your life, it kind of gets you off to a good start. And I just focus on the moment. Like right now, beautiful mountain out there, beautiful day today. So I live in the moment, having a great conversation with you guys, so I'm starting my day off and that's what I do. I just live in the moment.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be back right after this. Wait, but I have to acknowledge something here. Mark literally left us with the craziest cliffhanger of all time, and he wasn't going to tell us, so we just had to move on. I mean, that's insanity, really.
I'm super excited to hear that on the next show we have him on. Okay, I have to summarize what Mark basically told us in my interpretation of what Mark told us.
Sure.
It doesn't matter where you are And it doesn't matter how low you get. You've got to take risks because you never know how much that risk is going to pay off. And I mean, if you listen to the risks that Mark, he said he was suicidal. He came out of a bankruptcy. He financed everything on his credit card. He threw all caution to the wind, bought a one-way ticket and was like, I'm going to do this based on videos he saw on YouTube.
Yeah, no, right. Never having even been to the Philippines. I've never been, I also have never been to the Philippines, but even talking to Mark and having a friend like Mark in the Philippines, I don't think I would move to the Philippines with a one-way ticket with never having been there.
I mean, that's outrageous. It's amazing. It's awesome. And then he summarized it again perfectly at the end with his answer to his question of, you got to live in the moment. He did exactly what he preached. And he had, I mean, look, he had all his ducks in a row, and then some of the ducks got, for lack of a better term, murdered. Like his computer died, his phone got lost and drowned, and he still was able to put it together. And he said, just focusing on that moment and making sure those things got taken care of, he was able to move on to the next level. Wow, what an inspiring story. How awesome. It just shows you guys, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
No, and wait till you hear our guest next week, by the way. I'm going to give a little preview of next week's episode. So our guest next week is Justin Carmack, and Justin was introduced to me by Mark, so I know a little bit about his story already. Justin literally decided to just start traveling the world, having never been anywhere before. And similar story in as much as he went on a study abroad somewhere in Southern Africa. I don't remember exactly. He had like $500 left, and then we're getting ready to go home. And he said to his professor, I'm not going home. I'm going to stay in Africa. And he never went home again.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that. Mark, thank you for sticking around in the backstage and watching. And I'm going to bring him back. Hey, Mark, sorry to bring you back without any warning, but I'm right about Justin, right? He's fascinating.
Yeah, his video just took off cause he was like in prison in Egypt, for a crime he didn't commit.
Yeah,
he's traveled. He never stopped traveling from the time he left in Africa, left the group in Africa to today. He's still basically traveling. He never went home.
And it's like 14 years. Yeah, something ridiculously long like that. Yeah, it's a fascinating story. I'm super excited to have him on. And so thank you for introducing us to him as well. And with that, everyone, Jillian, is there anything you want to remind our guests before we go?
I want to remind everyone, including Mark, but I don't have to because it sounds like he's already doing it, to live the best version of your last life ever.
Never gonna take my freedom. You're never gonna